now to the Integral Ad Science team. So we have Clem Birdsall, Strategic Partnerships Director at Integral, and Chanel Barta, Head of Customer Success, talking us through trust and transparency in the programmatic system. I'll leave you guys to take over. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, JJ. So welcome again to day 4, the final day of the IAB's MeasureUp virtual conference. My name is Clem Birdsall. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Director at Integral Ad Science in Sydney, and I'm joined by Chanel Barta, Head of Customer Success across Australia and New Zealand, to share IAS's perspective on trust and transparency in the programmatic ecosystem. To do this, we'll start with some research into the state of the market around supply path optimization, or SPO as it's also known, and why it's become such a large topic. Before Chanel will talk through how some vendors are approaching this initiative, along with how some of the best in the business are making huge strides by leaning into SPO. So reflecting on the last 12 months, and media buyers have had a lot on their plate. Our 2021 Industry Pulse report found that their main concerns were, firstly, finding a solution for targeting once cookies are depreciated, which has been the number one concern, with years of work being made in identity solutions and advanced contextual, which has also been taking up a lot of our conversations and time at Integral Ads, to ensure that they have the best solution or combination of solutions in place to maximize effectiveness, both when the cookie is depreciated and beforehand. The second major initiative been going on over the last 12 months is supply path transparency. With the release of the ISBA study, programmatic transparency has really brought SPO to the forefront and understanding your supply path to ensure it is working for you and performing at the highest level it can be. The third point is sort of been ongoing for a long time, and that's been generally buying better media quality. Never have there been more options than right now for how to spend your digital ad budget. And the gap between poor quality media and high quality media has never been larger. And as we know, poor quality media leads to poor quality business outcomes. IAS, we can help with all three, but today we'll be delving just into supply path transparency and ultimately supply path optimization. But what is supply path transparency? Digital media transparency is the ability to see what media has been bought, where the media was placed, who was involved, and how much it was bought for. In order to have full control of the output, transparency into the supply path is essential. To use a bad metaphor, you can't plan or optimize a healthy diet without knowing all of the individual elements going in and how they are made. And now more than ever, for advertisers, there are more and more paths to your media. The days of publisher-served ads have evolved to DSPs, SSPs, networks, publishers, exchanges, resellers, and more, with PMPs, PGs, direct deals, preferred deals, which has all led to a huge boom in fraud in the market, with click fraud becoming so rampant that it's predicted to cost advertisers more than $50 billion US by 2025. That's according to the World Federation of Advertisers, and this number has been growing steadily. This has been a contributing factor for marketers to look at their supply path and understand who is getting paid and where. ISBA, or the Incorporated Society of British Advertisers, found that only 49% of actual ad spend reaches a publisher. And in their groundbreaking study with PwC run last year, they found that there were portions of that supply path that were unaccounted for, which for this particular study added up to 15%. Closer to home, even the ACCC is investigating digital media supply paths. But the short story is supply paths are messy and an issue to be fixed. So it's no surprise that in our most recent study that IAS partnered with Ipsos, surveying 200 digital media experts who buy ads programmatically, we learned that 2 out of the top 4 items on marketers' agendas in the coming 12 months this year revolved around increasing supply path transparency and maximising its effectiveness, which is a telling sign the industry is responding to pressures for more transparency. And it's not just marketers. Brands and agencies alike, 57% of them to be precise, are opting for a partnership with external consultants and vendors to audit their supply chain and find ways to maximise their efficiency and the quality of media that they deliver. And before I pass to Chanel, I just want to raise a point that Mark Pritchard made back in 2017, Mark being the Chief Brand Officer at P&G, who called out that the digital supply chain is murky at best and fraudulent at worst, which has only become more and more pertinent as time has gone on and these supply paths have become more and more complex. And with this, I'll pass to Chanel.
Great, thank you, Clem. So look, I think we've all got a pretty good understanding on what the problem is facing our industry, specifically talking about transparency and programmatic. And the great news is it's absolutely not all dire. There are solutions in market to address this. Of course, being from IES, I can speak to what we've got on offer. And just to take a brief moment to give a bit of a background, we established a really timely partnership in early 2020 with a company called Amino Payments, which we went on to eventually acquire at the start of this year. And that really enabled us to launch our total visibility solution, which you can see on the screen here for programmatic buys. Now, it's the first and only solution to provide radical financial transparency throughout the supply path, so advertisers and buyers alike can really see to the cent where their money is going and how much of it is really being wasted by those quality metrics that Clem alluded to earlier, such as fraud, unsafe brand environments, and unviewable inventory, further allowing those advertisers and buyers to optimize in near real time so that they can get the most out of their budgets invested. And just bringing it back to a bit of a local lens, as we know from the IAB Australia's recent online advertising expenditure report for June quarter of this year, a whopping 42% of inventory is transacted programmatically. And of course, we can expect that to grow with the continued investment into CTV, and a large chunk of that is transacted programmatically as well. Now, with that in mind, transparency and efficiency in programmatic buys is really a topical point discussed by both buyers and sellers across our landscape. And look, we do acknowledge that many buyers are able to get their own access to DSP logs, but what was missing was the ability to really tie in those media quality metrics, shining a light on where wastage can be reduced. And that's precisely what this solution answers for. So in the next slide, we can show you a bit of a snapshot of what this actually looks like in our total visibility dashboard. So there are lots of different metrics that you can see within this particular snapshot, but if we focus on the top two, being score and QCPM, they really show the financial impact of low quality media spend. Now, that score of 600 that you can see on the top left is generated from a scale of 0 to 1,000, with 1,000 being the best score. And it effectively gauges the overall integrity of the supply path by combining financial data with measurements of transparency, fraud, brand safety, ads.txt compliance, viewability, and working media. And similarly, the QCPM metric represents the actual cost of brand safe, viewable, fraud-free, and ads.txt compliant media after accounting for money wasted on non-compliant media. So it's really important when choosing a solution that you have the ability to do a few key things there. One of them is DSP comparison, which we can see in the bottom left of this screen, enabling buyers to further drill down into an SSP, reseller, and domain level breakdown to really understand and compare the performance of each path and establish the most ideal supply paths for optimization, but also to choose and work with a solution that allows you to compare performance against different buy types, such as private marketplace and open marketplace buys. Now, if we just flick to the next screen, I can show you a couple of really great case studies that we launched with brands and agencies globally. And in this particular case study with Nestle, we found that just under 3.8% of their impressions on a campaign were going towards inventory flagged as unsafe and unsuitable by that particular brand. Now, with our total visibility data, they realized this amount actually represented a disproportionate, almost 10% of their total media spend, which is quite a lot if you think about the types of volumes that a brand like Nestle would run. So by using that data and insight, Nestle were able to immediately reinvest that 10% of their budget towards safer and more suitable inventory for their brand, which is a really great result for Nestle. Now, on the next slide, we can show you another case study, but this time run for a great agency client partner of ours. Harmland Media was running a video campaign for a major advertising brand and was running across 36 different SSPs, which is quite a lot, with no real insight into which were delivering the most media quality at the best price. After implementing the optimizations based on the total visibility data, Harmland saw an immediate drop in brand unsafe impressions. They also gained 22% in cost efficiency by reallocating those dollars to higher quality paths. They saw a 19.5% increase in their quality spend and a 17.5% decrease in their QCPM. So there's some great results achieved for both the agency and the brand alike. Now, if we look at what the overarching takeaways are for a successful supply path optimization strategy on the next slide, we can really summarize these in a few key points. So firstly, using those quality and financial data and insights to help inform your investment and planning decisions. Secondly, they're setting some realistic programmatic benchmarks and goals to improve performance and use as a guide for your optimizations. Also, just ensuring that you are staying informed of local and global insights and trends to understand what's worked really well in other markets and what actually makes sense for your own strategies to deploy here on a local level. And finally, most importantly, really, is having an understanding that leveraging a solution or a tool for optimization is just one key part as a means of gaining transparency and efficiency in the supply path. But it's by no means the complete picture. Buyers and sellers do need to continue to stay diligent in working with your industry partners, such as the IAB, to help drive positive change and transparency in programmatic. And that can really be achieved by deploying some of these great initiatives that we can see listed here on the screen, such as ads.txt and sellers.json, just to name a couple. And look, this is especially important in the current climate that we're in, when really every single dollar counts. And that pretty much concludes our presentation. Clem and I just want to say a big thanks for joining us today, and hopefully the audience got some insights on the impact and benefits of bringing trust and transparency to the supply path. Thank you, JJ.
Thank you so much. Wonderfully done, both of you. Thank you. Yeah, and it's lovely to see the IB Tech Lab transparency standards in there, featuring boldly at the end there, and to enable transparency and supply path optimization for buyers. These are free tools. Now, do you at Integral have any insights into the impact that these standards, which we know are fairly ubiquitously adopted now on the supply side with sellers, at least in terms of publishers and ad tech vendors, do you have any insights into the impact that these are now having here in Oz?
Yeah, I'll take that one. It's been huge. Ads.txt, sellers.json. It's been pretty widely adopted, and for a vendor such as ourselves and even Double Verify, being able to see these sorts of initiatives in place really help us with detecting fraud and unsafe practices going on in the market. So it's been really good and really strong to see these being adopted by both publishers and then as sellers and resellers and buyers actually trying to target that specific inventory and ensuring that they are buying what is authorized to be bought and sold. It is an important note for publishers to make sure that their ads.txt files are kept up to date. I think there was a bot called the 404 bot, which I discovered, I think, last year or perhaps earlier this year, where there was some publishers overseas who hadn't updated their ads.txt files, and it was exploited by some fraudsters who are constantly on the lookout for any opportunity they can to shadow themselves and look like they are high quality placements or have high quality inventory to sell when ultimately they really don't. So keeping on top of your ads.txt file and keeping up to date and constantly looking at your supply path as both a publisher and as a buyer is super important to ensuring that what you're buying is what you're paying for, really.
Yeah, no, we've been doing a lot of work on this recently, and we're going to be doing a lot more work on it. In fact, let me just share some links here to everyone on a webinar that we ran last week, showing how to utilize these tools, keep them up to date, maintain them, and to look for the various use cases. It can be quite fiddly, but it's so important for measurement and ensuring that the operations teams on both the buy and sell sides have got these up to scratch, because we now have standards that are out for sellers that have been well adopted, and they're out for buyers, and there'll be more of a push to ensure the demand chain is clean. So have a look through that. It also includes where there's been a strong focus on CTV, how to have authenticated trading through CTV, and that's something we're going to do some work on in Q1. And I think we're all going to be involved in looking to see how we can respond to the ACCC's report in and around all things transparency there. And we've got Clem, both Imran and one of our executive technology councils taking the lead on that. So I'm sure you'll be involved, Clem, in our ongoing working groups.
Hopefully, looking forward to it.
Great. All right. Well, moving on. Thank you so much, Chanel and Clem. Thank you. We now move over to listen to Cameron from MMI, Method Media Intelligence. This is a pre-recording. If you have any questions that the panelists here can at least try to answer around anything that you've heard this morning, please don't be shy. Please put the questions in. But we'll now move to listen to Cameron around how advertisers are taking action towards supply path optimization, SPO. Thank you.